Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our another literacy lesson. Today we're going to be learning a final skill that we're going to need for writing a recount. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen, and our warm-up activity this morning is how many conjunctions can you list? So for example, I'm going to start you off. You could use but, and, yet. How many conjunctions can you come up with? You can do this on a scrap piece of paper, a whiteboard, or in your book if you'd like, but pause the video, take as long as you need. How many can you come up with? Once you've done that, come back and press play. All right, so let's see how you did. These are some of the ones that I have. There are loads. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so, although, as if, as much as, because, even though, if only, if then, in order that, lest, now, since, now, when, provided, rather than, so that. I'm not going to keep reading them all because there's way too many. So if you want to see if you got more than that, great, take a photo. We'd love to see if you did better than Miss Boots. Please, I'd love to see that put up on Seesaw. But anyway, we're going to move straight on into our lesson. So you've been able to write down some examples of a conjunction, which you've just done, but what are they? Can you explain what a conjunction is? So if you can need a bit of time to think, you can pause the video, but I'm going to go through what a conjunction is now. So a conjunction are words that link other words, phrases, or clauses together, okay? So we've used them quite a lot, and there are two types. Can you possibly remember the two types of conjunctions? We have coordinating conjunctions and subordinating conjunctions, and we're going to be looking at both today. So my second question on the board is, why do we use conjunctions? So again, you can take some time to think. If you need to pause the video, please do so. But here we go. Why do we use them? Well, we use conjunctions to form complex, elegant sentences and ways of linking information together so that you don't have short, choppy sentences. Okay, so they provide extra detail in our writing. So let's have a look at a paragraph number 5 from our model text this week. I'm going to read it out to you. How many conjunctions can you spot? Here we go. I knew I wouldn't be able to keep it up for much longer. So, without thinking, I threw myself onto a huge palm tree and clung on as hard as I could. Suddenly, the water hit me like a ton of bricks and I blacked out. Next thing I knew, I was being dragged from the water and onto a tin roof by a random man. The waves subsided, but it had destroyed everything. Slowly floating past was a soup of debris from the island, which included TVs, fridges, holiday books, and worse. My heart sank. I wondered if I would ever see my family again. All right, so how many did you see? So I'm just going to highlight some of them. So you've got, for example, in our very first sentence, so, okay. I've got and clung on as hard as I could. And I blacked out, okay, and onto the tin roof by a random man. The waves subsided, but it had destroyed everything. Okay, so we've seen how they join bits of information together. So, for example, I knew I wouldn't be able to keep it up for much longer, so without thinking, I threw myself onto a palm tree. I know that information is linked to the clause in front of it, that he wouldn't be able to keep running for as long as he did. All right, so we've got our two types of conjunctions that we're going to be exploring today. First off, we have coordinating conjunctions. The word is coordinating conjunction. So a coordinating conjunction has two clauses and the coordinating conjunction joins them together. So remember that a clause makes sense by itself. It's like a sentence that could be completely by itself and make sense. So for example, the waves subsided, and the second sentence, it had destroyed everything. Those are two separate sentences, and if I didn't have my coordinating conjunction, I could have a full stop and it still makes sense. The wave subsided, it had destroyed everything. That makes sense by itself. So a coordinating conjunction can be used to join them together. Instead, it was the wave had subsided, but it had destroyed everything. I've got two clauses in the second sentence here. Suddenly the water hit me like a ton of bricks and I blacked out. Two separate clauses that make sense by themselves and a coordinating junction that joins them together. So we can remember our coordinating conjunctions by remembering the acronym FANBOYS. for and nor, but, or, yet, or so. These make up the main coordinating conjunctions that you can use. So let's have a look now at subordinating conjunctions. So a subordinating clause is different. So a sentence that uses a subordinating conjunction will have one main clause and a second clause, but the second clause, a subordinating clause that doesn't make sense by itself. I'm going to show you some examples in a minute. But for example, a subordinating clause will always have a subject and a verb. For example, after she smiled. After is the subordinating conjunction, it's joining it. So this would come in the sentence, okay? She clapped her hands after she smiled, okay? Subordinating conjunction, it has a subject, so a person or an object or something, and a verb, an action in there. Versus this one here is not a subordinating clause because after is being used as a preposition. It does not have both a subject and a verb. Okay, so let me give you some examples of subordinating conjunctions. For example, the hopeless rugby team lost the game because they hadn't trained. So I've got one main clause here. That could be the end of the sentence and it makes sense. The hopeless rugby team lost the game. But I have a bit of secondary information here. They hadn't trained. This does not make sense by itself. It wouldn't be a great sentence. They hadn't trained. However, my subordinating conjunction links this bit of information to the main clause. Okay, so I know that it was because they had not trained that they lost the game. And I can see that there is a subject and a verb in my subordinating clause. And looking at the second one, whales give birth to live young as they are mammals. Again, I can identify the subordinating clause because there is a subject and a verb, okay? And my main clause is the one that I could put a full stop at the end and it makes sense. Whales give birth to live young. Great sentence by itself. And there is the subordinating conjunction that tells me why that's happening. It links that subordinating clause to the main clause. So what could we use as subordinating conjunctions? We use the I saw a wab up. I don't really know what that means, but that's how we remember it. If, since, as, when, although, while, after, before, until, and because. Okay? So if you ever need to try to remember our conjunctions, you can use fanboys or I saw a wab up. Wabub. Wonder what that's about. Anyway, so can you figure out whether these sentences are coordinating conjunctions or subordinating conjunctions? So you can pause the video if you need a little bit of time and just say to yourself, the first one is, which was it, subordinating or coordinating? The second one is, and why? I'll go through them in just a moment. So pause the video if you need some time. Okay, so the first one, I had a terrible cold, but I still went to school. I can see that there are two full sentences in there. I had a terrible cold, I still went to school, and this conjunction joins them. So this is a coordinating conjunction. He was annoyed because the train had stopped. Because, I remember, was a subordinating conjunction. There it is, because a subordinating. So it's telling me that this information, the train had stopped, is linked to my main clause. That's why he was annoyed. So this is a subordinating clause, conjunction. Number 3, once Batman learned that Robin had not been wearing a seatbelt, he took away his keys to the Batmobile. Okay, so trying to figure out, is it coordinating or subordinating? Well, there's my conjunction once. Okay, once Batman learned that Robin had not been wearing his seatbelt, he took away his keys. I know that this information depends on the information in front. If I just had the sentence, he took away his keys to the Batmobile, I don't really understand what that's linked to. So because it's linking the information, it's one depends on the other one to make sense. This is also a subordinating conjunction. Number 3, we were out of milk, so I went to the store to buy some more milk. Okay, so again, we were out of milk. I went to the store to buy some milk. Okay, this one is 2 separate sentences, so it is a coordinating conjunction. And last but not least, as, there's my conjunction, as Sherry blew out her candles atop her birthday cake, she caught her hair on fire. Right, this sentence would not make sense by itself. It needs the other bit of information to make sense. So it depends on that first main clause. So it is a subordinating. Well done if you got those all correct. So what we're going to do as our first task today is we're going to be rewriting these sentences using a subordinating or a coordinating conjunction. You can use either, okay? So we might have to change the sentences. So I'm going to do the first two with you, and then you'll be off to do it by yourself. So the first one says, I can't go swimming. I have forgotten my swimming trunks. So I could use, for example, oops, let me go across. I could use, for example, a coordinating conjunction to link those together. So things first, I'm going to write the sentence as it is into my book. Number one, I can't go swimming. And I'm going to, full stop there. I have forgotten my swimming trunks. Okay, now that I have written that in my book, I've written the two separate sentences. Now I'm going to write it using a coordinating or subordinating conjunction. So I might use, for example, I can't go swimming as I have forgotten my swimming trunks. I can't go swimming because I have forgotten my swimming trunks. Okay. I can't go swimming. What else could I use? Let's go back to the examples. So I could say since I've forgotten my swimming trunks. Now, could I say I cannot go swimming before I have forgotten my swimming trunks? No, not really, because it does not make sense. Okay. I could say that, oh no, none of those work. So I'm going to use any one of those that I like. So, and I could also change up the structure of my sentence. I could put this sentence first. That would be absolutely fine. But here I go. I'm going to rewrite it and say, I can't go swimming because. Now I'm using a subordinating conjunction, so I need to check that I have a subject and a verb to make it make sense, because I have forgotten my swimming trunks. Or togs, as we call them in Australia. All right, here we go. So going on to number two then. So let me just, oops, run this one. So I'd like to go to the park. My mum won't let me. Okay. So number two, I want to go to the park. We'll start, my mum, space, won't let me. So now I'm going to change that using a conjunction. Now, would it make sense to say, I want to go to the park as my mum won't let me? Technically, it does make sense. However, it's not really the best choice of conjunction, okay? I want to go to the park because my mum won't let me. Again, it doesn't really make sense. These are contrasting statements, so I probably want to use something like, I want to go to the park, however, my mum won't let me. I want to go to the park, although my mum won't let me, okay? So I might even change it around so it goes, my mum won't let me go to the park, although I want to. I can rearrange the sentence like that. That would be absolutely fine. My mum won't let me go to the park. My mum won't let me go to the park, although I really want to. Okay, so I've got the same information. I've got a conjunction, a subordinating conjunction to join it. I really want to. I've got a subject and a verb. So it's your turn now. I'd like you to pause the video and do 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 in your book. Link those two sentences together using a subordinating or a coordinating conjunction. Once you've done that, come back and press play. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to try and come up with some simple sentences that we could write about this picture. Okay, so it's a tsunami, something very bad is obviously happening. So we're going to see if we could write some simple sentences. I'm going to write them straight onto the board. You would write them into your book. Okay, so simple sentences. I could say like the wave crashed into me. I'm just going to pretend I'm there and what's happening. Water swirled around the houses. Maybe a bit of an, even like a stronger word than swirled. Okay. What else I could have? Oops, gone the wrong way. Trying to use my senses again. The noise was deafening. Try to think, if I was in this flood, what would I do? I'd probably try to be scrambling onto the roof. I scrambled onto the roof. Oops, roof of the house. Let me move this one. What else might we be doing? You can have a think. What would you add? What other sentences could I come up with? Salt filled my mouth. Okay. And maybe just we'll come up with one more. What else can I see in the picture? And see the water's flooding in, it's covering the houses. I've talked about what I can taste, hear, see. Maybe I've talked about what I could feel. What else could I do? Maybe something else I could see. The wave ripped trees from their roots. All right, so I've got some simple sentences. And if I was writing a description about this, it could be the wave crashed into me. The noise was deafening. Salt water filled my mouth. I saw the wave rip trees from their roots. Water was swirling around the houses and I scrambled up onto it. So simple sentences. So what I'm going to do now in my book, I'm going to link those using subordinating, coordinating conjunctions to make my writing more interesting. So I'm going to pick two that I can join together. So the wave crashed into me. I could have salt water filled my mouth. Those are two bits of information that would make sense to go together. If I said the wave crashed into me and I scrambled onto the roof, that doesn't make sense. I can't be underwater and scrambling up the roof at the same time. So make sure you pick things that make sense to go together. Okay, so I'm going to write, so this is task 2. Okay, and I like to make sure everything is underlined beautifully. So I had 2. I was going to be talking about the wave crashing into me and salt water filling my mouth. Oh, there we go. So salty water filled my mouth. And then I'm going to use a conjunction to join. The most appropriate one would be something like as, so I know that it's happening at the same time. Salty water filled my mouth as the, and I'm not going to be lazy and just write the wave. I'm going to make it into a noun phrase, as the gigantic wave crashed down on me. Okay, lovely. So that's my first one. And I'm going to try and use some of the other sentences. I've got the noise was deafening. Oh, and maybe waves being, the trees being ripped from their roots, because that would make a sound. Okay. Maybe I could link the water swirled around the houses and scrambling onto the roof. Those things need to go together. All right. So I'm going to try and make 3 sentences for this picture. So 2. Your sentences don't have to be linked. So it's just one sentence. So for example, this one I talked about being underwater. Now I'm going to be talking about climbing onto the roof. It does not matter that they're just separate sentences. I'm not writing a paragraph. Number 2. So let me go back. Let me see, what else could I use? I could try to use while water swirled through the houses, I scrambled up onto the roof. Okay. If water started swirling around the houses, I knew I needed to climb up onto the roof. I've also got these coordinating ones, and I climbed up onto the roof. Try to use ones that you haven't used before, that you're not as confident using. This is your chance to really push yourself and try. Okay, so let me go back to the picture. So I'm going to say, oh, whoops, I need to see the sentence, wasn't it? Water swirled around the house. So water swirls around the houses while I scrambled up onto the roof. Fantastic. 2 sentences. Happy with the conjunction I have there? Right, so guys, what we're going to do for our next activity is I've got 2 pictures here, one of a tornado, one of a bushfire. You are going to do exactly what I just did. You're going to first write some simple sentences about a tornado. So what can you see, hear, feel, smell? So grass was being ripped, or it crashed into a barnyard. The roaring of the wind filled my ears. And then same for the bushfire. And you're going to use a subordinating or coordinating conjunction to make sentences that are more interesting and having lots of detail in them. So you can pause the video now and do that. Once you finish, you need to upload a picture of that up onto Seesaw for your teachers to see. And that is the end of our lesson. So I hope you had a lovely day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.